am architect Vinay Shrivastava and I am founder partner of Vastu Vista design firm. Our practice for last 22 years, we have been focusing on all sorts of projects, especially hospital design. My personal interest is in technology part of the design, and in practice, I've been taking care of the continuity that we have from our rich cultural heritage that we have had. So I think there is a perfect sync if we are designing, and that is what we do in our design consultancy. So the project we are discussing today is Vidisha District Hospital, and this is hospital designing is a very difficult task, basically because too many codes and too many requirements are there, and so many things are involved in hospital designing that we need to keep our intent and the sanctity of design basis very, very clear. Because what happens is that there are so many forces and there are so many deviations, not just because of the design requirement changes, but also because of the cost and other reasons. So hospital design is something which needs maneuverability in terms of complete control over the design. And there are so many forces from the design team as well. You have consultants who want it in a certain way because they want their design to be, safeguarded in a particular fashion. So you need to do the coordination. Architect is supposed to do that. That is coming from the architect, and that is what we need to understand. These are not just the building services. These are the entire site, the entire project, the medical services. These need coordination in the hospital design. So today we are talking about 350-bedded Vidisha District Hospital, and we have won a lot of awards for that. To name one is Paryavaran Mitra Award, and that came from the instruction from PCB for planting trees in a particular fashion with particular names and all that stuff. So it was very difficult because we were given a lot of area around the site to be planted, and what we did was we used our software governor and we monitored that, and we got CIIA's Paryavaran Mitra Award for that. Then talking about the project, if you go to site, you'll realize we did initial case study of the region, so that where we are going to drain things, how we are going to manage the entire area, because next to us was coming up a medical college and they raised their plinth by 1.5 meters. So our site became a bowl and things like that. So at that particular time, there was, why I'm mentioning this in detail is because this is very important to begin with any site. What happened was that we had to see for the drainage, and there were certain issues with the municipal corporation at that particular time, and they were not able to give us the way through that. So we solved that. So that was again honored by the collector of Vidisha, and we got the award for that because he solved a major part of it with help of administration, definitely. And that was that. If you see, mostly in most of the cases, what we do is we keep the building along the road, the frontage. And what we did was extreme opposite. We placed it in a way that the entire site was visible from the front. And the reason was that we have been to so many district hospitals, and what we see is that we do not get entrances for future provisions. So if you see this design, there's a future provision of around 1 lakh square meter on the site itself for the hospital. And in the hospital building, you'll find extension provision of around 40,000 square meter horizontally in the already made building, horizontally. And then a 60,000 square meter provision of upper 4 floors is there in the structure design for future expansion. It so happens over the period of time, 20 years down the line, you definitely need to increase this. So again, we were awarded for this, and that scope was given a lot of appreciation because it doesn't happen this way. It cannot happen this way. You cannot anticipate the future needs. And what we did was we created a site, we created a lower ground. If you go to lower ground, you'll find a lot of services, you'll find a lot of vacant spaces which were created for stores. DH is having a lot of central store for the entire district, and so on and so forth. And then we had zoned that floor, the lower floor, in a way that we had the services like STP, MSW on one side. And on the other extreme side, which was at a distance of around 150 meters from one another, the water tank, ETP, the patients who are coming but not needing to get into the hospital, like physiotherapy and all those services there. And this was almost a lower ground. And in this lower ground, if you go to that place and experience, you can feel the wind because it is so designed. Ample light is there. You'll feel as if you are on ground floor. That is the merit of this design. And again, we were felicitated for this. And Then let's come to so when we design a hospital, major problem is that we design it from the perspective of keep segregating the departments, isolating the patients. There are certain patients who are not patients, like maternity is not a patient. She is going to give a birth to a child, and then she might need an SNCO, so that is segregated and separated. Then you have the IPD, that is segregated and separated. Then you have the OPD, that is segregated and separated. And then next to it, you need trauma, so that is again connected. And all these three might need in some way diagnostics. So they are like maternity has its own dedicated, and with the OT on ground floor itself. The entire OT complex for maternity is on ground floor. And then for the trauma connected with OPD, we have the diagnostics on the same floor. And these floors, this ground floor is having the connectivity, several connectivities on ground, so that no one intervenes in another. And if you see the plan, you'll realize that it is a H-shaped building with all the ends vertically connected. And these are the expansion points I'm talking about. Look how hospital design plays an important role in meeting pandemic and meeting such requirements. And also future expansion is that provision should be there. It isn't a provision where you are saying that you can make it here. Provision should exist by design. So terraces were there, a lot of ample spaces were there, and there were botanical terraces, there were other spaces created which were not mandatory but required, and we made them. So they were available to us when they were required. On all the floors, we had the central core for all the services. And if you visit the central core, you'll realize it is good 40 feet wide, the corridor. And the merit of this is because of this, we have been able to zone the services, medical services and other services, and the patient movement in a way that it's almost no conflict for that. And then we have the vertical shafts for services, for DU and other things like that. And they are pretty functional and they are very meaningful in terms of hospital design, especially in case of manpower struggling departments. Then as we go up and as we see the entire hospital, we have service scores, we have building management areas, and we have all the services in a particular way that if something is not working for us, there is absolutely no impression of that in the general area. No one would ever know. And the person can come and do that. And it's maybe to surprise of many, it's fully automated in terms of HVAC and electricity. It's fully automated. So the reports are on mobile, so there's no struggle in that. Then firefighting is there and other equipments are also there. More specifically, the entire design has integrated CSSG, kitchen design, laundry, services. Then we have the HVAC chillers at top. And when you move in the hospital, you will never come across anything like that. You will not experience anything that will be offending. How come this is there and that? On the south side of it, and the entire building, wherever you go, you have singly loaded corridors on south side, so that sun protection is there. And with central huge courtyards, the spaces have been so designed that the functionality is maintained, and the design is from the perspective of understanding how we can control the virus spread or bacteria spread or any infection for that matter. The segregation of these spaces was a key criteria for it. And this is where we pointed out MPR book is monthly progress report book on this, and this matches with the national code, and because of which recently Vidisha District Hospital was given the award for that, for the merit of its infrastructure and also its manpower. So one would, as a doctor and an IAS, one would want something else, and as the person who's going to get the funds, the approach was entirely different, and the person who's sitting on the ground, that is the civil surgeon, had entirely different perspective. But still, the merit is in the final outcome of the project. If you go and visit the site, you'll realize that every detail was well thought about and things are in right perspective for everything. So this is a government project, and there were three departments. One was design department, EPCO, the other was the execution department, which was PIU, PWD, and the other was the client department, which was the health department, which gives the requirements. Now requirements, if you say fixed, no, they are never, and they can never be so, because situations change. and the requirements were revised at least 4 times, and we revised the design as many times as we were asked because of the change in the requirement. Initially, we were given the old district hospital, and later on, we were told to shift to the new site. And this new site was supposed to be built in a way so that it becomes a facility for the entire region for medical services. So this includes a district hospital that we designed. It also includes a medical college. It also includes a proposed cancer unit. So it's a multi-specialty area, and the government has funded it through various sources. And I think the entire campus has come out pretty well. Every story is a different story when we talk about our building design, especially hospitals. The administration told us there's no way you can drain your water, wastewater. That was one big challenge. The second challenge was in 2016, the codes got revised for structural design. So that was a huge change because the entire design needed a change. And then the third challenge was that while we were doing, somewhere around midway, we were asked to make certain changes which were like, makeshift arrangements, but were very painful in accommodating that in design. Basically, because what happens is that you have a symphony in your entire design process and everything is coordinated. So if you shift one single piece of brick from one place to another for certain reason, then you have to change the entire design basis report and all the details. So that is one thing I think was very challenging. So the architectural details, if we get into, the best aspect to see is that as we were asked by the client department to integrate the regional values, especially the heritage. So what we did was we tried to incorporate that through Sanchi Stoop and a motif which was about well-being of a person in a normal routine. It is taken from the stupas and it depicts virtuous living and the artists from the region and the development of which took a certain time. But then once it was done, it was like a big achievement. And then if you visit the campus, you'll realize that choices of material were vernacular. If you see the abundant use of Koda stone, fly ash brick and ceramic tiles and other things, you'll see that the site reflects upon the vernacular choices. But at the end of the day, there are certain places like in the courtyard, we had to reflect a lot of light. So how do we do it? So what we did was at the corner edge of the ramp, we created a glass facade. And this glass facade reflects a lot of light, especially the evening light. And it is for reflecting the evening sun into the courtyard so that abundant light is there. And when you can feel at every space, every corner you go, because provisions have been made, terraces have been created purposefully for having that, it's connecting your traditional building design methods and means the way we used to do it in past. It's just that. So when we started, there were certain, things which are culturally not into government building. 3.5 meter height, they have a specific make for building in terms of specifications. So initially we had to struggle a lot in terms of getting the specification revised for this building, and we got it revised, and definitely the cost increased, but we did it in the initial days itself so that it works for a long period of time. And fortunately then we had Pankaj Agarwal sir as the person who steered the way for us for getting the best thing chosen for it, including at the initial level, the HVAC and all the other services in the design, not as a later consequence of it. So when we were working on it, we were very clear that we have to make one of the best hospitals. And this is how you see it everywhere. If you see the ranking, this is 7th nationally and 1st in MP in terms of its services and infrastructure. And it is not just because the intent was so, because the intent was delivered the way it should have been. If you are asking about the NQS certification, the credit goes to the civil surgeon for his endless efforts, to Sanjay Nema sir, who is like tirelessly working on everything at the central level, and to a great extent to my team. Because if you see people in my team, you'll find them like they will give you details which are like sequential evolution of this plan. It is not something that we propose. We proposed something, then it went into research and development. There was one person, Pankaj Singh, he's no more with us. We lost him in COVID. And he was doing right from energy audits to the service planning to all that stuff. And he was one kind who was not very popular consultant in the sense that he never cared who says what. He always said what he wanted to say. So that is what he approached, and that is what we stuck to, that this is the way we want to do it. The other person whom I would like to mention was my partner, Vishwesh Joshi. Vishwesh Joshi, I hope people know him. We lost him with cancer. And whosoever knows Vishwesh Joshi knows right is right. As simple as that. And why I'm taking his name is because there was a crossroad where certain hospital planners wanted to mend this building in a particular fashion. And he told me one thing, that it's client's requirement that you have to follow. And if it is in writing, you kindly do that. Do not argue. But if it isn't in writing, and if you feel that what you think is right, it should be done, do that thing. Don't get into that managerial, that we architects do not belong to that category, that we manage things, we design. So this is the this is the entire idea and how it worked and how these people have helped us through the design process. There are many service consultants involved, and I want to thank each one of them. There's so many and so plenty. We have a structural design team from Bombay. We have a MEP services team from Mumbai. We have the entire medical services consultants spread over Indian map. And why we have been working with these people, that the only reason I guess is we have been fortunate to be doing hospital projects for such a long period of time, and blessings of these people who have been contributing greatly to our design. My experience and my learning in this project was that we are a team and we have to be a team. That's the way to do a project.